name is Beth Damaris. My spiritual name is Gita. And with Dr. Pillai's guidance, I launch new initiatives for Astraved in Pillai Center. When I met Dr. Pillai in 2001, I had been working and living in New York City, and I had been for the past 7 years or so. I was working on Wall Street. I was a technical consultant, and I had just gotten a position as a director in an e-commerce company. That position was a little bit over my head. And although I was in the prime of my career life and kind of living this very exciting lifestyle in New York, I was miserable. I was burnt out, and I was working maybe 16-hour days. I felt like I was living actually someone else's life because I was sort of a slave to what I was doing from 9 to 5. And I felt that. I think most importantly, that was my mindset. So my life felt like it was kind of getting narrower and narrower, and there were less possibilities for me until I met Dr. Pillai. So I met him in 2001. And when I met him, it was at the UN building in New York City. And he was teaching a meditation seminar. And there are two things that were very much stood out for me during that meditation. One is the incredible amount of light that was not only around him, but in the room as well. So it's sort of the whole room sort of vibrated with this luminous light. The second thing was his compassion. It was universal. It wasn't just for one or two individuals that were there. It was this blanket of compassion that was coming on to everybody in the audience and meeting them at whatever they were at, whatever their needs were. So after I met Dr. Pillai, really within maybe 30 to 60 days, I started using one of his meditations, one of his sounds called Adhikara, and it's a manifesting sound. So as I mentioned, I was in a job that was a little over my head, and I started getting actually quite frightened that I was going to be fired. And I just ended up kneeling down and saying, Adhikara, Adhikara, Adhikara. Now I had been using Adhikara daily, not a tremendous amount, but nevertheless, I still used it consistently each day. And I got down on my knees and I just was praying, Adhikara, 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 and praying, don't let me lose this job. The next day, a miracle happened. I was riding on a train to go to Boston, from New York to Boston. And a man came and sat beside me, and he struck up a conversation with me. And he ended up being a CEO of a large jewelry company, in a worldwide large jewelry company. And he wanted to go online. He wanted to sell his products online. So he had not one project for me, but 3 projects for me. And I remember exiting that train saying, my gosh, what just happened? That was a total miracle. The second thing happened actually very recently, and there's been many miracles in between. But most recently, I contracted COVID, and it was my first time with COVID. And I thought I really wanted to be kind of silent about it and meditate on it. But I'll have to say that I had COVID for 30 minutes. And what happened is I experienced a headache that was, pretty strong, but only for 30 minutes. And then it was over. And then immediately afterwards, I started feeling a little bit of a scratchy throat. And I thought, well, maybe I should test. And I tested. And of course, I came up positive for COVID. After that, and literally it was 30-minute COVID. That was my experience. After that, all the symptoms went away. And although I tested positive for COVID for the next 5 days, I had no symptoms. I was completely symptom-free. This was an incredible miracle. It was something, I hadn't taken any medicine, I hadn't taken anything special. It was just something where I felt like the grace of Dr. Pillai, the grace of God came on me to be healthy. Now, when it comes to spirituality, I know my karma and spirituality. I've been meditating for 30 years. The first 10 years in a Buddhist tradition, and then most recently, the last 20 years with Dr. Pillai's sounds. I know my mind fluctuates a lot. I wrestle with it quite a bit in meditation. The experiences he's given me are above my karmic profile and some of the highest experiences that you even read about in books. So they've been from, looking into vistas of light and looking into new universes outside of this sort of earth plane and the mundane reality that we live. And each time it happens, it's different. And each time it happens, it's so wondrous. To me, that is the essence of life, is to experience your spirit and to grow that spirit. That I feel we all came here. Dr. Pillai says, we came here to evolve, we came here to learn. And that is the biggest learning experience I personally could have ever wished for. And it never ends. It's constantly evolving, as well as his teachings are too. So whenever he learns something in his meditation, in his practice, he passes it on right away. And so it's like a living, dynamic walk with the greatest master who's living today. So I am profoundly grateful to be able to study with him. I am profoundly grateful to have an opportunity to be able to share my experiences. And I thank you for watching.